probe into Sandalwood Drugs scandal intensifies as now the High Court has rejected the bail pleas of actors Sanjjana Galrani and Ragini Dwivedi. This is yet another rejection for both these actors. And in the meanwhile, Aditya Alva, who's also accused number 6 here, still absconding. I have with me KV Dhananjay, who is a Supreme Court advocate, joining us to give us a perspective. Mr. Dhananjay, take us through, why do you think Sanjjana and Ragini have been rejected bail once again? And they've been in prison, Parappanagrahara, which is a central prison in Bengaluru, for more than a month. And their advocates say that they've been cooperating.
Well, the fact that the trial court rejected their bail application earlier and that the High Court has now also rejected their bail application would mean that the case may not be one of merely consumption. Apparently, in the initial days, the police in fact did say that these people, these actresses and many others who were arrested were, big time consumers of some of these contrabands. It could be cannabis or other manufactured drugs. So it appears that the High Court may not have seen this merely as a case of consumption. And of course, the High Court cannot unilaterally take that call. It appears to be like the police have made a case before the High Court that the case is one of trafficking, because otherwise one would have expected that the High Court would have enlarged these both actresses on bail, because the most punishment for consumption in this country is only 6 months if the drug consumed is cannabis, or if the drug is a manufactured drug, maybe MDMA or the like, then it's about 1 year. And in either case, let's say a person is convicted on a charge of consumption, the law itself intends that the person deserves help, and rather than being pushed over to a jail to serve that sentence, the person should be let off and sent on probation so that the person could be supervised while staying at his or her home. So consumption may not seem, so it does not look like merely a case of consumption as far as the police's eyes are concerned.
But there isn't anything revealed as per those allegations are concerned. Apart from consumption, there is a certain amount of trafficking that they have mentioned, but not extensively revealed details. What does that really indicate?
Well, that's a bit surprising because, the police was in fact actively informing the public in the initial days about what the charges against these women, because these women were actresses, you see. So they were in fact, in the public limelight. So once they were arrested, the police was very often updating about what kind of developments have happened, and almost all of those developments concerned consumption. So this appears to be a newer development, and we will have to wait to see.
What we understand here is that they've established contacts of Ragini and Sanjjana with some of those peddlers who have been selling narcotics, and that they've established through several WhatsApp chats, etc., conversations that they've had. What kind of punishment will that amount to if proven?
Well, you see, a consumption, because consumption suffers a lesser punishment. Now, how does one consume a drug unless one, in fact, gets in touch with somebody who's distributing it? So, being in touch with a distributor, being in touch with a trafficker, so long as the person apparently has done nothing more than consume the drug, so that is not going to elevate the charge of consumption to something big, because to consume a drug, obviously the law would have expected that the consumer will be in touch with the traffickers and so on and so forth. So the police will have to show something more. And at this point of time, I think the public is not quite aware of what this other big thing is. So I think the High Court's judgment might be a kind of a revelation, because you can draw some parallel between this case and the Riya Chakraborty case in Mumbai, because the Riya Chakraborty case again largely centered on consumption or aiding other people in consuming. Other people in this case happened to be her boyfriend, who later ended up dead. So there is some similarity between these two cases, but the fact that the High Court, has not granted bail makes one think that the High Court seems to have taken the government's argument, the police's argument, that this was a case of trafficking.
There's also Aditya Alva, who's the accused number 6 here, who's been absconding for the last month and a half, over a month and a half, close to 2 months, and the CCB officials say that they're still on the hunt.
Well, I think Aditya Alva, whoever advised him to flee and run away, I think, this was so wrong, because the law always deems that, often because there could also be the other explanation, which is a very innocent man or a woman ran away because they felt they would be, tortured, or for that matter, they would be suppressed, or there would be some kind of atrocity from the police. But you could say that if you were dealing with a tribal or a person like that. But when you're dealing with apparently an entrepreneur, and for him to have run away, that only strengthens the case against him, because the police is entitled to tell the court that, look, this man ran away. I mean, this man is like a celebrity himself, and he's been an entrepreneur. He comes from a very wealthy background, and he happens to be well connected politically also, both in the past as well as in the present. So the police is entitled to say that the fact that he has fled the jurisdiction apparently means that he seems to have engaged in many of the things that the police is accusing against him. Now, by running away, he has simply strengthened the accusation against him, and not merely that, he appears to have also strengthened the case against several of other people the police are claiming to be co-conspirators. I think he's helping the case of the police by having run away from the jurisdiction. Now, the fact that he's not been granted bail, so far, that also raises a question as to what does he propose to do now. I think Mr. Alva should have contested it, all said and done. Now, there are some things that may look laughable. Like, for instance, he's been an entrepreneur, and if the police were to say that he was profiting from sale of cannabis, now that would be laughable, because Nabila, you know very well from if you read newspapers that the price of cannabis is the lowest in the world in India. So, and there are these memes on Twitter and all which say that you want to make money selling cannabis, don't bother, because you might make more money selling samosas or vada pav. So if the police were to make a claim to that extent, then that would be laughable. But nevertheless, the fact that he's run away makes all of these claims, acquire some sense of legitimacy. So the police will have to show something more. I mean, the police should not ask people to believe and believe and believe over again. They will have to show something more. And then if they make an allegation, they should support it with something. Now, I hope that they did so before the High Court, and High Court did not take the police's version on faith, because we don't run a church. This system does not run on faith. It runs on material and on the basis of evidence. And by the way, the girls the actresses who've been denied the bail, obviously they have the opportunity to go to the High Court, just like any other citizen would have had the opportunity. But from a practical perspective, the Supreme Court does not, because of COVID-19, the time that it takes to get a bail hearing conducted before the Supreme Court is generally larger than usual. There's a great deal of delay that's likely to happen.